Hey, what's going on? Arden Zwelling here with Davidi and Ben Nicholson-Smith here to set up the MLB trade deadline, which is coming up on Monday, August 31st. We're going to talk about how that might impact the Blue Jays, how that might impact things across the league in this strange shortened season, and already has impacted the Blue Jays because they were one of the first teams to make a move acquiring Taijuan Walker from the Seattle Mariners to help bolster their rotation. And Shai, maybe I'll throw this to you off the top. We could talk about Taijuan Walker as a guy with a four-pitch arsenal and a guy who's clearly a very good big league starter, good strikeout to walk, all those good peripheral stats that the clubs like to see. But is perhaps the biggest benefit the Taijuan Walker will give the Blue Jays that he has gone 7 innings in a start this season. He has been up over 100 pitches in a start this season, which is something that no other Blue Jays starting pitcher can say they have done this year? Is it purely the length that he's going to provide this rotation going forward, helping a beleaguered bullpen?
Well, right now, that's certainly the urgent need. The fact of that somebody can actually get deep into a game and do it consistently. That's great. But let's not sell Walker short here. I mean, this is a guy who's got a legit arsenal, of a mid-90s fastball, 2 good breaking pitches, a workable changeup. He's got all the tools to be successful. This is someone who had tremendous prospect pedigree a while ago, someone who's overcome a number of injuries. So this isn't just somebody that you're stuffing into the rotation to just absorb and soak up some innings. This is a guy who can be a bit of a dude, and that is significant because you think about a year ago, the Blue Jays were hard sellers. They were the team giving away the rental players. And here we are a year later, and they're acquiring a rental player, Walker, a free agent at the end of the season. So it's a significant role reversal. And I got to be honest, I didn't expect them to go after a rental player, but here they are. So it really tells you what they think of the opportunity before them.
Yeah, what do you make of that reversal, Ben? The last couple of years, you've seen the Blue Jays being in the position that Seattle was in, with a J Happ or with a Marcus Stroman dealing them away. Now they're competing for those players, along with clubs like the New York Yankees and the Houston Astros, who are perpetually competing for rental starters at the trade deadline because those clubs are perpetually contending. What do you make of the fact that the Blue Jays are going out and acquiring a rental at this point?
Well, it's a lot more fun, I think, for everyone involved when you're in the position to be a buyer, whether it's a fan. I guarantee the players on this team are happy to have reinforcements coming their way, and even for the front office, right? I mean, the rebuild at some points it's necessary. It's not necessarily fun, and in this case, to be adding a player in Taijuan Walker who can help this team, who can give them some innings, maybe a little bit more upside, even like Shai said, there's real value there, even if he doesn't become a long-term piece for this team, which of course the expectation is he makes his 5 or 6 starts, if possible, if healthy. Maybe this team makes the playoffs, maybe he helps them there, and then you move on and part ways. But to be able to make that kind of addition for a player to be named later, very helpful, and it does signify a big turning point, big transformation for this team.
Yeah, I was trying to lead Ben down to a place where he's going to say, it's win now, baby. Like, it's time to go. The Blue Jays are turning it around. And I'll throw it to you, Shai, because I do think that, this does signify something, this move, about the front office's belief in the 2020 Toronto Blue Jays as a legitimate playoff contender. You look at their opportunity in the American League right now, they are the favorite basically to qualify as that number 8 team in the postseason. When you think about how poor the Boston Red Sox have been this year, how poor the Los Angeles Angels have been this year, if you're the Blue Jays, you're competing with the Detroit Tigers and the Baltimore Orioles, who are clubs that on paper you should be better than. So what do you think this signifies about the opportunity that the Blue Jays are seeing for themselves in 2020?
I mean, Arden, just for a second, wrap your mind around what you just said. The Blue Jays are competing with a playoff spot with the Detroit Tigers and Baltimore Orioles. I mean, this isn't a competition. This spot is theirs as long as they don't trip over themselves, or suffer an outbreak of COVID-19, or have a rash of injuries that completely submarines them. So that's why you're seeing them starting to set themselves up for this. And, it's really theirs for the taking. And they're the ones who can stop themselves from getting to this point right now. So I think that's why you're seeing this move. But for me, I look at the Blue Jays right now as a startup company that's creating a lot of momentum. And the front office is essentially an investor that's deciding, okay, how are we going to help this company scale? Now, if you go too big, you're going to surrender some assets that's going to undermine your long-term success. So I can't see the Blue Jays parting with any significant prospect capital this offseason, but they have some depth in their farm system. And I think they can use that to make some more moves on the periphery, create a bit more depth on this roster, and get it to a point where it can really frighten a first round playoff opponent and maybe make some noise. So it has been a really sizable change. But I think that the big dynamic push we see from this team still comes next year, unless they can find a trade that allows them to essentially check off some of their off-season shopping lists right now.
And like a startup, the Blue Jays and all baseball teams are always managing the short term with the long term. And the short term is what we just discussed, with Shai, is this really unique opportunity if the Blue Jays qualify for the postseason. And as we know, in MLB, you just need to get your ticket to the dance. Like, just get into the playoffs, get into that tournament at the end of the year, because anything can happen, particularly this year with a 3-game first round playoff series. You get 2 very strong starts out of a Hyun-Jin Ryu and a Matt Shoemaker, or perhaps a Taiwan Walker, and you get some big swings from Randall Grichuk and Teoscar Hernandez. All of a sudden, you've taken down one of the best teams in baseball, and you are heading on to the next round of the playoffs. So, Ben, how do you manage that short-term opportunity that is very real for the Blue Jays while walking the line of a long-term rebuild that has taken a lot of time to put into process and a lot of time to build? And when you think about your minor league system and some of the financial flexibility that the Blue Jays have created over the last several years, that's meant to produce sustainable winners year over year, seasons from now. So how do you not sacrifice or not jeopardize what you've built for the long term while still taking advantage of the opportunity you have in the short?
I guess to really oversimplify it, you have to be willing to give up something. And we saw that they gave up a player to be named. That doesn't mean that it's just a throwaway player. It's a player who has yet to be revealed. So you're willing to give up something. You're not going to give up everything. You're not going to trade your Jordan Groshans, your Simeon Woods Richardson. Your best prospects are going to stay put, and with the expectation that they can contribute to this team down the road. But it's interesting, looking at the entire depth of prospects that the Blue Jays have built up, this is a difference maker for this team in the view of Ross Atkins. And he was telling us in a Zoom call recently that depth of prospects allows the Blue Jays to be in the conversation for any player that they want to pursue. And he didn't name names, but from the outside looking in, you might look at a guy like Mike Clevenger or Zach Plesac, guys with years of control, with frontline rotation upside. These are the types of players that the Blue Jays can consider. And depending on the price for an individual player, they might say no, they might push it to the offseason, but they can at least have that conversation. And, as Shai hinted at earlier, this can be an opportunity for the team to get ahead of things. They're going to need starting pitching next year. They're going to need starting pitching in 2022. So that prospect depth can allow them to have those conversations. And again, it's not to say you give up the farm, but you can have a lot of different opportunities, explore a lot of different trades, because their system is now ranked 4th in Major League Baseball.
It's not only the prospects, Shai, but it's also the balance book. Like, it's also the payroll spreadsheet, essentially, where the Blue Jays have a lot of flexibility going forward at a time where you would expect a lot of teams are likely looking to shed salary because nobody's made any gate revenue this year. So if the Blue Jays were willing to take on some salary from other clubs, they could really get creative and find some interesting trade opportunities by not necessarily, tapping into some of their top prospects, but just by using the financial flexibility that they've built.
And we've seen them do this a number of times in recent years under the leadership of President and CEO Mark Shapiro and GM Ross Atkins. The first example being Francisco Liriano in 2016, where the Jays essentially took the contract. They sent Drew Hutchison back to the Pirates, but they also got a prospect in Reese McGuire, who's now their backup catcher. So they've used their financial ability or the financial might in a number of ways over the past few years. And this is definitely a time where money and the ability to take money is an asset, right? You mentioned that there's a lot of financial uncertainty in the industry. I think that there's a certain amount of trepidation about what's going to occur this offseason and whether teams are going to be willing to spend. So the Jays, if they are at the point where they feel they're really going to dive into free agency, and they already started doing that last year with Hyun-Jin Ryu, then they might be one of the relatively few bidders in a position to act aggressively over the winter. So certainly there are going to be teams who would like to move some money right now and try to clear their books for next year and beyond. And if you can have a team subsidize it for you but provide some salary relief, in a lot of ways that's as good as a prospect right now. So they have a lot of tools at their arsenal. They have a lot of ways for them to attack the deadline and beyond. And if you're the Blue Jays, you absolutely have to be doing both right now, thinking, how do I help myself right now, but can I help myself into the future as well?
So we've established that the Blue Jays are in a good position to make further moves. We've established that we expect them to want to take advantage of this short-term opportunity that's been presented to themselves. So let's bring this home by trying to figure out what the Blue Jays are going to do over the coming hours ahead of Monday's trade deadline. Yesterday, guys, when we spoke to GM Ross Atkins on Thursday here, he mentioned run prevention as the big thing that the Blue Jays were looking to bolster here at the deadline. And that's interesting because he didn't say pitching, he said run prevention. So that can be defense, that can be catching. It doesn't necessarily mean acquiring another starting pitcher or bullpen help. I'm sure the Blue Jays would love to do that. Literally no team in the history of baseball has ever had enough pitching, particularly starting pitching. So I think that's absolutely something the Blue Jays will target. But when Ross Atkins said run prevention, Shai, did that kind of pique your interest of maybe they could be involved in a catcher, or maybe they're looking to upgrade their defense, which obviously has been leaky at some very significant times this season?
Run prevention is a really interesting way to put it, Arden, because you can certainly take it in a number of different ways. And I think all things being equal, the Blue Jays would love for this to be about pitching. But I also think that if you're willing to be creative, you can do some really interesting things. And the Los Angeles Angels are a team that's selling that can address a few of their needs in intriguing ways. Jason Castro is a catcher with a tremendous defensive reputation and has the ability to get on base with a bit of power. He could be a really interesting fit on a young team right now and provide a little production as well as some run prevention. And if you're really committed to defense and you're not certain if Bo Bichette is going to be able to be a meaningful contributor until maybe late into September or not at all, Andrelton Simmons is a shortstop that they could rent from the Angels as well. And he's one of the best defenders in baseball. And if you really want to address run prevention, I mean, he's a guy who you could certainly look to in that regard. So I think that essentially the opportunity is going to lead them a little bit here. Where is the right fit? Where is the right price? But there are a number of different ways they can address run prevention. And I think that essentially how creative they're willing to be and what are some of the dynamics at play of their roster as this thing evolves will ultimately decide that.
And Ben, you're always at the mercy of the opportunities that you have, as Shai mentioned. You'd love to be able for it to be a video game and you'd be able to just go onto any roster and pull guys off and say, yeah, they'll definitely trade this guy, or they'll definitely accept this package. But how active do you expect the Blue Jays to be over the coming hours, and how much do you expect them to get done?
They'll be active. There's no doubt about that. Will they make trades? I think they will. It's interesting because the Jays have information that we do not have and that other teams do not have with respect to Nate Pearson, Bo Bichette, and Matt Shoemaker. And those guys, if they can return healthy, would be big reinforcements. If it's going to take a while, then the Blue Jays are going to be more motivated to go outside. I think they'll add pitching. I could see it being a controllable pitcher. And I think they're going to bolster their bench with an infielder. So that's my prediction. We'll see if it happens, but I think they'll make a couple moves.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then I liked what Shai raised about perhaps acquiring a catcher. I wonder if that could be the creative way that the Blue Jays address their run prevention. Remember how spoiled we were watching Russell Martin in Toronto game calling and blocking pitches and reading swings and understanding scouting reports and how to set guys up and really how to get the most out of not only veterans on your pitching staff, but young pitchers as well who are still learning about their repertoire and how it works best. at the major league level. I do wonder if that's something that the Blue Jays could add in order to allow fewer runs going forward. We shall see. All I know for certain is that it's much nicer to be on this side of the equation where we're talking about what the Blue Jays might add as they go towards the playoffs rather than what they might subtract as they head towards, a late September locker clean out and tea times after that. The trade deadline will be Monday, August 31st. We will have it covered for you at sportsnet.ca. That's Shai Davidi. That's Ben Nicholson-Smith. I'm Arden Zwelling. Talk to you next time.